with China making certain moves, now you got to remember the world, the tiny tigers in the late 90s, Malaysia, Indonesia, and all of them, they were doing great. That's why they called them the tiny tigers. And the U.S. tripped them up. Remember Japan, like China now is on the move? Remember when Japan bought up Sony and Japan was buying up in the late 80s and the early 90s, Japan was on a roll. Then in 98, they cut Japan's throat because Japan was in this mix. You see? And when we say this, Japan is going to look at what happened and they're going to say, Boss Man did play around with us. Because the way they play it when you watch the news is that Japan made this mistake and that mistake. The U.S. still controlled the flow, the flow of trade, and they cut their throat. They sold them all this big property, worthless property, and then it crashed, and then Japan was holding the bag. They knew what they was doing. Okay. Now they're trying to trap China. How? In an arms race. In an arms race. You know, so China will spend zillions of yuan, whatever they call them, on these big monstrosities. Would y'all look up Yamamoto, and if you'll look up Bismarck. Yamamoto and Bismarck. That is the ship, the battleship Bismarck and the battleship Yamamoto. Have you found it yet?
Right now, I'm just bringing up a Japanese general in history. I got to type in battleship.
Yeah. Okay, but I think that thing was either 68,000 tons of Bismarck.
Was the first of two Bismarck-class battleships built for Nazi Germany's Kriegsmarine, named after Chancellor Otto von
Bismarck, right.
The ship was laid down at the, so what else you want to?
Oh, well, the Bismarck was sunk. Does it see how it was sunk? It blasted the hood out of the water. It blew it all out of the water.
Yeah, two torpedoes fired by HMS Dorsetshire is what sunk.
Yeah, sunk the Bismarck. What about the Yamamoto? What do they say about that boy? That boy was gigantic.
It was a lead ship of her class of battleships built for the Imperial Japanese Navy shortly before World War II. She had her sister ship, Musashi, were the heaviest and most powerfully armed battleships ever constructed,
Right.
displacing 72,000
72,000
at
tons.
full load and armed with 9 46-centimeter Type 94 main guns, which were the largest guns ever mounted on
the ship. Okay. Now, both of those was bad battleships. The Bismarck was the baddest battleship the Germans had. They used to have a song by Horton, whatever his name was, Sink the Bismarck. You know, from back in the 50s, you know, guns as big as steers and shells as big as trees, something like that. In other words, I'll explain it like this. What you was reading, it said pre-World War II. Okay. Now, during World War I, battleships was, good God Almighty, they was as big in World War I, almost as big as World War II. and they had guns. I mean, they were like if you were a country that had shore batteries and all that, them battleships would just float up there and blast you out of the. They could destroy all your armaments. This is before air power. Battleships came from back the old days. And by the early 1900s, the dreadnought class of, maybe you could look up dreadnought class. These battleships was, hey man, 16-inch guns. They can go, I don't know how many miles. The Bismarck, when it sunk the Hood, the British battleship, it started, the song said it started firing 20 miles away. As far away as they could see them, that's how bad the Germans was. They picked it up, and that's it. They blew it out of the water. Okay, both of those ships, the Yamamoto was the pride of the Japanese Navy. They built it in secret. And when it was sunk off Okinawa in 1945. What sunk it? Torpedo planes. $50 to sink a $1 zillion ship. I mean, that's what the gas and whatever it takes to fly up. You know, remember torpedo bombers just come out. And they could hit, that's the same thing technically that sunk the Bismarck too. No matter what else they say, it was torpedo planes. Okay, small stuff that's big. Remember we were spending some time on PT boats, torpedo patrol boats? Yeah, it was bad. Just, that was a speedboat with torpedoes on it. No armor. Well, they had a 50 caliber machine gun. That don't do nothing against all the battle armor of the, but they could run them torpedoes right down the line, and they could drop the biggest ship out in the ocean. Okay. This has to do with not aging, but the big battle, both of those battleships was started before World War II. Well, if it was, the Bismarck might have been started a little later. But they became out of date and unusable right away. Soon as they come in with air power, you know, aircraft carriers, you could take airplanes all over. There's no more need to bomb the shoreline with a battleship. And remember, those things was, I mean, they was so bad that they just, hey, you know, it was bad, a battleship. Okay. As we move into where we're moving into, we have to study the history of warfare and everything so that we understand what to use at a certain time. Right now, they're trying to get China to go backwards and get those big giant ships, right? Aircraft carriers. I think China might have 1 or 2 aircraft carriers. That's plenty. You don't need all of that stuff. Plus, 1 or 2 little inventions, modern inventions, make those things obsolete. Right? Iran is number 3 or 4, maybe 5, in drones and what have you. Finished. That means they can do whatever they want with drones. Right? They're getting smarter and quicker. And don't let no Israeli drone fall in the area, they snatch that boy, reverse engineer it, American stuff, they reverse engineer it, then they improve on it. You see what I mean? The point about the Bismarck and the Yamamoto, what did it say about the Yamamoto was so big, it was
At full load, it would displace
72,000 tons. 72,000 tons of iron. That's iron. And it's got, man, look at here. It's got armaments that there's nothing you can do about it. But then those torpedoes, you set them deep, bam. And for $100, you could sink $1 zillion. And I want us to remember that as we move along. Never think that boss man, the U.S., he's just like the Yamamoto. He's like the Bismarck, right? Have you noticed that he's lost every battle he's been in? He don't lose the battle, he loses the war. He's lost every war. Because people are not going to fight him like he wants. Like they said, we got all the time and you got the watches. You know what I mean? Talking about the U.S. Yeah, you got all the watches, but we got all the time. That's what the Afghanis was telling them. Okay, it's the same thing with us. I'll try to get to the point. In the global liberation movement, things accelerate so fast when they start changing that you got to move with the speed of the transition. That's why we'll get back to where we was the other day. But right now, we have to put this one forward because there's things that are happening, and day to day, we have to get the word out to the people that's listening to make sure that they don't use up any of their resources. So if China was listening, if they was, we would say, don't pay no attention to boss man and the French. He done sold out the French, and the man is crazy. No problem. That's good, but don't you let him dictate what you're going to build for yourself. Number one, you don't need it. All you need now, the lighter the weaponry, the better. Because nobody can use all that big stuff anyway. Right? All that big stuff, they dropped one daisy cutter in Afghanistan. 16,000, 20,000 ton bombs, whatever it is. You could just drop it on a parachute, and hit, right? What for? Right? Okay. Our position is when we talk about keep score, you got to keep score so you know where you are and what you're doing, and you know. Anyway, global liberation movement. Therefore, on certain things, number one is China should not allow the U.S. and Australia to get it to spend more money. They already built one aircraft carrier or two. They don't need any more because one missile can take them all out, right? And you can't stop all the missiles, right? You just swarm the thing with with firepower, and you got all them billions and zillions of dollars, like the Yamamoto, go to the bottom. Why? Because it was 5 or 10 years past. They built it at the end of World War II, at the beginning of World War II. In World War I, air power was undeveloped. During the period from the 20s 30s, and the 40s, air power did away with battleships. There was no use for battleships anymore because they could send a little plane over and it'd just bomb everything, right? Battleships is battleships. They was to bomb the shoreline. They was to bomb anything within 20 miles of the shore. They could destroy it. You know, that's what they used to call gunboat diplomacy down in South America. You roll up on one of them battleships and you could control all of the Panama and everything. Anyway, so right now things become, to understand when things become obsolete, you have to be moving fast psychologically. And you can't have a big tie in it. You can't have a big hook in it.